You're pretending to be a man.
Miss Cunningham? Miss Cunningham, can I see you for a second? Good morning, everybody. We are going to good cold Thursday morning to everybody. Hopefully everybody had a nice commute here to the RSCVA this morning. I'm going to call to order the regular meeting of the Board of Directors for the Reno Sparks Convention Visitors Authority for March 28th, 2019. Mr. Seidens, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, sir? Jonathan?
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Mr. Seidens. Sorry to catch you off guard like that. Madam Clerk, can I get a roll call?
Mr. Caroselli, Mr. Dillard, Mr. Lawson, Mr. Lucy,
Here.
Mr. Murdoch, Mayor Sheevy, Mr. Sturbins, Mr. Mr. Wood.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We have a quorum, and we are short one board member, which we will take care of here shortly. We are moving on to public comment. Is there any? I don't have any public comment signed in this morning from anybody here in the audience. I did receive a email public comment, so Madam Clerk, you've received this. Please put this into the record, and we'll reflect that. Seeing no public comment, we will close public comment. We are on to approval agenda, but I'd like to make a couple adjustments this morning to accommodate some of our guests. We are going to take things a little bit out of order. We will move item G1. No, I'm sorry, not G1. We will move H1 to immediately follow item E2 this morning. And if that is an amenable change to everybody, I would look for a motion. I have a motion. Do I have a second? Do I have a second? I have a motion from Mr. Dillard, second by Mr. Sturbins. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right, we are on to, moving right along, we are on to item D, approval of minutes for February 28th, 2018 Board of Directors regular meeting. Any changes? No, seeing none, looking for a motion. Move to approve. I have a motion by the mayor, second by Mr. Murdoch. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Great. We are on to item E1, appointment of board member pursuant to NRS 244A 601. Mr. Kennedy, you want to take us into this item, please?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. As everybody's aware, Mr. Wowo resigned his position effective as of after last month's meeting. That position is appointed by the Reno Sparks Chamber. Reno Sparks Chamber has submitted 3 names for consideration to fill out the remainder of Mr. Wowo's term. Those nominees are Kurt Mishi, I hope I'm not butchering that too bad, Daryl Plummer, and Ann Silver. This appointment would become effective immediately and would serve out the remainder of Mr. Wowo's term, which expires in July of this year. And this is open for discussion by the entire board, but voted on by the 3 elected officials only. And with that, I'll turn it back to the chair.
Thank you, Mr. Kennedy. So this morning, we'll open discussion in regards to the chamber seat. Obviously, it was filled by Mr. Wowo and for quite some time. This will be that we will have to vote on this in July, but we'll take any consideration or discussion at this time by any of the members. We do have 2 of the members here. We can open it up to them, or we can just take a position at this time. So, I don't see anything you'd like to say. No, yeah, nothing like putting you on the spot. I'm sorry this morning, but you'll get to have plenty of time to talk eventually. All right, well, at this time, based upon the recommendations that have been submitted to the board, it would be my recommendation, and I would put this in a form of a motion, that we nominate Ann Silver to fill out the remainder of Mr. Wowo's term for in the chamber seat.
Second.
I have a second from a motion by myself, second by Mr. Lawson, and so this is a vote of the electeds. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed. Okay, motion carries unanimously by the electeds. Ms. Silver, you are, thank you, Mr. Plummer, for coming this morning. Ms. Silver, please, if you could come and join us. Appreciate it. Yes, Madam Mayor. You push the speak face.
Anyway, congratulations, and I have had the opportunity to work very closely with her on many initiatives. She's a brilliant woman. I'm so excited that you're here. Not to mention, I don't think we've had another female on this board for the last 5 years. So I'm elated. And you will do a fantastic job. And for those of you that don't know her, she's incredibly engaged in the community, and we're very lucky to have you. So welcome aboard.
Thanks again.
Good job. All right, welcome, Ms. Silver. All right, we are on to item E2. This is our legislative update from Mr. Jesse Wadhams, who is our legislative liaison in Carson City. Welcome, Mr. Wadhams.
Good morning, Commissioner, members of the board. Jesse Wadhams, again for the record. Wanted to kind of give you a quick overview of what's going on in the legislative session since I was here last, and the answer is not a whole lot, actually. It has been a very busy session. It has been a lot of motion, but we are still sort of, I think, trying to get started, really. You had a couple of resignations, resignation from the Senate leadership and then a senior leader in the Assembly. So the session really has... It's slow to develop is kind of what I'd say. That said, in the last couple of weeks, we did see bill drops of we had about 300 bills that kind of came out over the course of the last couple of weeks. Monday was the committee deadline for their bills, so we saw another tranche of probably 80 bills. So we are starting to see what is out there, the panoply of issues. There are things that do hit room tax, from a 911 surcharge. There's another flood project, another school project. There are a whole host of employment law changes. I know Ms. Rizak is probably following those employment law changes very closely because across the board they touch almost every facet of business, top to bottom, small and large, public and private. There's ecotourism bill. There's a Tahoe Douglas bill. There are so. I think what I would say generally is we are still looking to sort of see where the session plays out. We now only have 2 weeks till the first committee passage. That's on April 12th. That will start to give us a sense, I think, of what this administration, what this legislative session's priorities are, because right now committees are very slow to have hearings. We have low number bills that still haven't had hearings. We have high number bills that are scheduled for even today. So it's of the legislative session at this moment, what I can tell you is there's a lot that affects us in this business, but right now I can't sort of give you a good flavor of how that's going to play out until probably another week or so. But committees are scheduled, and I'm keeping Phil and Jennifer and Mr. Chisholm aware of what's happening directly for us. I'm happy to stand for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Wadhams. Are there any questions in regards to session for Mr. Wadhams? What's our bill number? What is our the NRS the bill number for NRA?
So the NRA has requested a bill that is AB 368.
AB 368.
Correct. And that came out in that last tranche of bills that is in that sort of 200, 300 bill range that came out. Has not yet been scheduled for hearing at this time. We've got 2 weeks to do. So that's where it stands.
Mr. Watt, thank you, Mr. Wadhams. Is there anything else, Madam Mayor?
I would just ask Jesse that before that goes to a hearing.
No, of course. As soon as I hear, I've talked to the representatives from the NRA and spoken with I know they've spoken with the chair of taxation in the Assembly, and so that bill, they're looking to get that hearing scheduled. And as soon as I have that information, you will have it. No, it's a.
Mr. Wadhams, really quick on the ecotourism bill, the NCOT bill. Do you have the number on that one?
That's AB 360,
AB
and if you recall, that one would add 2 new members to NCOT that are specific to the ecotourism industry.
Would it just add 2 members, or would it reduce the size of the NCOT board? I was
If-
aware. I was under this.
I could speak to that, Bob,
Yeah,
if you'd
that's-
like.
Mr. Dillon, yes.
So it does 2 things. It shrinks the number of voting members on the commission to 6. Then the next step is it dedicates 2 of the 6 voting members to ecotourism. So in essence, ecotourism would have a 33.3% voting block on the Nevada Commission on Tourism, and ecotourism as a market segment in the entire state of Nevada is, I would say, is minuscule at this point. So.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Dillon. You know, I think as we move forward, I think I'd like to watch that a little bit closer and see where, obviously, what position we would take, or if any position, if we would just sit back and watch that one.
Yeah, I think at this time we would advocate that we would be opposed to that because it unfairly attributes 33% of the vote to a very small portion of the economy.
Mr. Murdoch.
It also eliminates the seat.
You good? The face.
There we go. Thank you. It eliminates the seat up here in north that Cindy is on NCOT, Cindy Carano. They do eliminate that seat by adding the other 2 seats to the ecotourism. So it could be impactful to, when you look at the north, you're thinking the rurals from all the way up to Elko to Gardnerville so it eliminates that NCOT seat. Well, I think it does, yes.
Cindy Carano serves as vice chairman. She's a voting member. I, from the representing RSCVA, are a voting member. And then also Herb Santos is a voting member, and also the president of the Elko CVB. That has changed now, but he was a voting member for a long time. He represented the rurals.
Great. I think as that gets motion, I think Mr. Wadhams, we would bring that back, and obviously, as Mr. Dillon points out, probably push for a board resolution for opposition to that.
I think that's right. And I'm happy to do that. It has not been scheduled at this point for hearing, and so I will keep you posted on that.
And then one last question I have for you. How many bills currently have been dropped in regards to room tax initiatives? I know Douglas County has a bill. Douglas Tahoe has a bill. How many other bills are out there?
There are at least 2 others that come to mind top, including the NRAs. Then you've got the Tahoe Douglas bill. You've got an 911 surcharge that could potentially touch the room tax. You've got a bill out of Carson City that's on school districts, very similar to what we saw from the ballot question. And I can get you these numbers. I've got them here, but you've got the surcharge, surcharge for schools, and then there's at least one other, I want to say it's a flood project, similar to what we saw again. So there's at least 4 kind of swirling about. Again, it's still very early. None have been scheduled for hearing at this point, and I haven't really picked up that there's, especially on like the 911 bill, I asked the sponsor about that, and he wasn't even aware that that was in the bill, so.
Great. Okay. So we got 4 or 5 out there. All right. All right. Thank you. Mr. Watkins, any further questions at this time? All right. Seeing none, appreciate the presentation.
Thank you, and I look forward to the first bill deadline being through and a little more specificity that we can get into.
Great. All right. Sounds great. Thank you so much for your help down there. All right. We are going to move now to item H1 on the agenda. This is a special funding request, and this is a review and discussion and possible action to provide special event funding for the Miss USA pageant. So with that, I will turn it over to Mr. DeLone.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On February 28th, the date of our last RSCVA board meeting, we heard a presentation from Jonathan Seiden, legal counsel of the Miss USA pageant. The Miss USA organization wishes to hold their televised event in Reno, Tahoe on Thursday, May 2nd, 5 weeks from today. The Grand Sierra Resort has been in discussions with the pageant for some time. It has previously been determined the pageant will be filmed in the GSR's showroom. The pageant is requesting a sponsorship from the community. There are a number of concessions. However, the primary larger concessions are the following. 3,400 complimentary room nights. The GSR generously has agreed to provide 1,500 of those desired room nights, plus approximately 2,100 meals that are also a requirement. The pageant has indicated they have secured the balance of the requested needed rooms elsewhere in the destination of the comp room nights. The pageant has requested a sponsorship of up to as much as $350,000 from the community, which is for discussion here today. Chairman Lucy.
Thank you, Mr. DeLone. At this time, what I would like to do is offer the opportunity for Mr. Seidens and Mr. Paula, I'm sorry, I forgot your last name, sorry. I apologize, to present from Miss USA on the project for the board members. Obviously, we have a new board member here, and allow them a time to provide us a little clarity for their project. Welcome.
Thank you, and congratulations. Nice to see another woman. Nothing with all the men here, but yes, I'm sorry I missed a month ago, but I think Jonathan repped us on a grand jury at the time, so I just finished my grand jury service, so I thank you for the opportunity to be here today. We can run through the presentation again if you wish. Specifically, I know that some of you haven't seen it, but I did just want to talk a little bit about the brand, what we do. I saw Michael Day here earlier. I know there you are. You have experienced the Miss Universe organization and Miss USA specifically in Baton Rouge. And the one thing that I think is very telling is when we come into a city, we are always asked to come back the next year because of what we were able to offer. And I actually came to this company as part on your side of things. I was part of the Hawaii State Tourism when they hosted an event over there, and I was asked to come in and represent and be part of the legislative initiatives and the funding for that, and to work on the Hawaii side. That was my introduction to the brand. This was many eons ago. In 1998, we had just started our website at that point. We had 35,000 hits a month for tourism, which in those days was good. The night of our telecast, we crashed at 5 million hits while the show was on. So then I became aware of the brand, and I said, what does this brand bring? And I saw the global exposure that we're able to provide. And since just the telecast portion, because Miss USA is distributed to over 70 countries. It's a World Cup. People in the Philippines or Latin America want to see who is going to be representing the USA at the big event. So we do offer exposure. We also offer heads and beds. I have I brought water up because I know I'm in the desert. So.
And Paula, could you state your name for the record?
Oh, yes, it's Paula Shugart, and I am president of the Miss Universe organization. But we are very, very excited about the possibility of Reno Tahoe. I think Jonathan is actually probably the biggest advocate and has been advocating for this for 18 months. So I think it's very appropriate that he led the pledge today. But we have everyone on standby after this meeting today. All of our state directors, the families, friends, everyone are waiting for us to pull the trigger and say yes, at which point they could start making their arrangements to come here. Our advisory council visited us in New York a few weeks ago. We talked to them about Miss USA. They were very, very excited about coming to Reno and the possibility. None of them had ever been here before. They reached out to us afterwards and said that they were so excited about it, would we consider bringing the teen show as well at the same time, which obviously brings even more families in. They can use the stage that we have, and they are all prepared and ready and just waiting for us to say yes. So we not only offer exposure globally, we also are a digital monster. We have, I think we can, through all of our grassroots state contestants, we offer about 20 million just in a day in terms of impressions. So we give them the messages that you want to send out every day, which plays to a younger audience as well as the older audience on the telecast. And I think Jonathan presented to you the last time just our own internal data on the Miss Universe fan base and the affluency, and that they're more that they are more apt to travel. So I would be happy to share that with you again if you would like to see it. And in anticipation of the event happening, our executive producer Chris Wagner has flown up this morning, and Carlin Canali, who is our supervising producer and plans all events with the contestants. So it's not just the telecast, and if I am repeating anything that Jonathan has said, over the 2-week process, anything that you would like to get out messaging-wise, we are the vehicle to do that. We have incredible contestants, title holders that are here and able to, through social media. Our Miss Universe alone, who is from the Philippines. Actually, this morning I was talking to someone at the hotel who knew me from the Philippines, and they asked if Catriona was going to be coming here. So there's already a little groundwell of a buzz happening. So we can get out any message that you want to send. Carlin personally handles every day if we are talking about revitalization downtown. Anything that you want 51 contestants and our title holders to send out there. Commercials for the region. Anything that you want us to visit, we have that vehicle, and we're very nimble and able to do it. And we've already been sending our production team up here for the last few weeks in anticipation of this happening. I think we've already spent, 25,000 and all the people that we've sent here on surveys, but we are so enthusiastic. We really want to do this, and it is our hope that we would be able to. And I'd like to just answer any questions that you have in terms of exposure or what we can offer.
All right, great. Thank you, Stuart. Is there any questions from the board in regards to the presentation or any details that any of the board members would like to have in addition? Mr. Dillard?
Good morning, Paula. Good morning, Jonathan. Is it possible to do a segment on a day in the life of Rick Murdoch?
Absolutely, but you'll have to wear a sash. So.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I'm actually, that was my, and one thing that I did, once we have Chris here, so we'll figure that whole thing out. I was going through, a lot of people that are not familiar with the pageant itself, and again, one of the reasons why I do talk about how excited I am to see women involved and seeing more and more women in government. And I love the fact in Carson City that the women in the legislature, I think, is a very big deal. And I would love to have I'd love to have our contestants go down there and actually be able to meet with some of the women in the legislature, because I was reading bios last night. I've got, I think, 4 lawyers, 3 that want careers in politics. I have 5 former title holders on Capitol Hill, although that one has just gone over to the Pentagon now, and then another has actually gone over to Africa. We have a former title holder on the Council of Foreign Relations. So these are amazing women. I think 3 of our last 4 teens, Miss Teens, were their valedictorians. 2 are seeking political careers. 1 has actually written legislation in her home state. So I know that some people sometimes, if they hear pageant, don't know exactly what that means. And they don't know that we had a captain in the Army 2 years ago. We had a nuclear scientist 3 years ago. So I just want to make sure everyone's aware of just the caliber of these women and what they bring. I think for those of you that are parents, I think in this day and age with social media, we can do a lot of great advertising with social media, but I think for young people, there's a lot of stress and anxiety, and we as an organization seek, through just bringing young women together and realizing that they have so much in common, that they're able to go into the schools and really help people that feel alone, their peers that really need assistance. I just was reading, and not to bring this down, but just reading about the anxiety, the suicide rates, the students in high school that just need that confidence building and knowing that they have allies. And that's what I'm so proud of with our organization, because that's what we do. And reading the bios that I was reading last night, there were 3 women that actually that's what they do. They go into the schools and they are advocates for mental health awareness and issues and making sure that there's funding available. We were just having a conversation about homelessness. These are all women that are advocates. And right now, they can be advocates for our host city. And they're very excited to do that. And our show budget is about $5 million. So airfare alone is going to be about $300,000 for us. Per diem is about $350,000. Per diem, and then some, is all left within the community. So the exposure that we can offer, this is not something that we're looking to make a profit off of. This is something that we're looking to help us with our production costs, and we will be hiring a lot of people within the community on the production team. I know that Chris the last time he was up here, was exploring who we could hire to augment our production team as well.
Great.
So.
Thank you. Any questions at this time? Mr. Murdoch.
Thank you. You say you televise it in 17 countries. What data do you have that would show, if you televise this, what states does this affect around Nevada? Is there a big audience in California? I mean, I'd be interested to know what you know about the USA itself and what states would be impacted wherever you guys go with your show. Do you have that statistic?
Yeah, we have some data from our social media, like in the United States, social media, what states are biggest fans of our organization. And I think 2 of the top 5, and I can send this to the board too, I think 2 of the top 5 are California and Nevada. So, and I think there's a bunch of other.
California, definitely.
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
And specifically, too, just this is a unique year. This is a unique year by virtue also having our Miss Universe in attendance, because she is a superstar from the Philippines right now. I think this is something that we would also, I know that is something that's also important to the marketplace here, so we would be able to do a lot with our Miss Universe this year. And I know that the Filipino audience coming from California would also play into this.
Great. Ms. Dukart, I have a couple questions for you. In regards to timing, we're trying to do an early May date for production. Being that we're sitting at the end of March, doesn't leave a whole lot of time. Is a standard in regards to how you guys usually plan? Because this is, to us, a little more unorthodox in regards to how we do special events, and we've never put a production of this size and magnitude, nor have we addressed an ask of this size and magnitude with such short timing. And it leaves me with a level of concern in regards to, you know, you've got less than 60 days to really turn out a production that seems to be of significant magnitude. What are your plans to do so, and really kind of give me a little bit of a work through the timeline for me?
No, absolutely. And we have had our team here, and that's why Chris and Carlin are here right now. I would prefer to say that this isn't a norm, but this does happen. First of all, I would not be here if I wasn't 100% convinced that we could do this. And part of it is also the community, because this is manageable for us. We know when we come in what we need. We have our calendar already laid out. And then it is a question of us plugging in the events. As an example, we did Miss Universe in Thailand, which is an absolutely, it's a huge event. I don't recommend it, but we did it in 2 months' time because there were changes in the government, and so that we had to, even though we were working on it, we had to start over again with 2 months to go. It was an amazing show. I felt very confident. We have very professional people, and we're prepared. We have everything, the basics of everything we need. I know from a financial standpoint, sometimes on the budget, we are also flexible if budgetarily some funds would need to come from this budget, and I know that there's another budget starting up July 1. That's also something that, if that's a concern as well, that we've also been able to do in the past in order to make the event happen now. But from our end, I feel confident as long as you tell us what you want us to include in the show and digitally, that's all we need, and then we hit the ground running.
Okay, great. And then Mr. Sayans, I have a question for you. In regards to, in the last presentation you had mentioned to us that, you know, you had estimated room nights from the event to be around 5,500. Is that right? Is that correct?
I think
Total room nights from the event?
Okay, that would be the
I think it was in our statistics, so that would be correct. Now,
I think that's what I remembered it being, but okay. And then out of those 5,500 was the 3,400 was coming out of that because of the comp room nights were going to come out of that 5,500. Is that correct?
I
Yes,
think
actually, and I do think, because we would have to get the numbers from Baton Rouge, but we would want the comp rooms out of that, but we also, I would say it would probably be more in terms of people traveling over just from, so I think your numbers are probably right about
and I believe Larry Parra corrected the record at the end when he said it wasn't, not all of that was part of the 5,500.
Okay.
So there would probably be, especially if we do Miss Teen USA at the same time, which we'd really like to do. It would bring a lot of families who, you know, when Teen USA would end, there would still be a few days before the Miss USA show. And a lot of the teens would then move into rooms with their families. So there would be, in fact, more rooms at that time because it wouldn't be rooms that the organization was paying for. So it would probably bring a lot more families for those couple of days.
So we're talking about 2 shows now instead of just Miss USA? Or
Yes, actually, and that's what we did last year. They will happen at the same time. It really is something that you don't necessarily, the teens would actually travel with the USA contestants, and they will be on the exact same stage and would have their event would happen at the exact same time, or a couple of days before, but basically just a footprint that's overlaid on top of the calendar. Okay. And they're here for about 5 days.
Thank you. All right. Any comments, or Mr. Sturbins?
Thank you for your presentation and being here this morning. I'm just curious if, you know, this organization wasn't able to fund the complete ask. Is there an alternative plan, or is there an alternative location you guys are considering right now?
Yes, if we were not able to get the funding, we would go to the network and ask them to move the show to later, and we would go to one of our previous locations that we've been speaking with. But right now, everyone, I do want to be clear that our organization and the network are very, very much focused on wanting to do this here and willing to promote. And that's what we want to be able to do. And the fact that Fox has moved us to the very first Thursday of sweeps is very, very telling, because that is something that they put a lot of their promotion in. And that means that we have their support. And when Jonathan and Larry first presented Reno Tahoe to them, they love the idea because the show has never been done here. And for them, if a show has not been done, it's a better story for them.
Thank you.
All right, Madam Mayor.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for being here this morning. Maybe, do you have a breakdown of the demographic?
Do you have in the presentation? Yes, if you can. I'll leave that to Jonathan. Our viewing audience is primarily women, though. Are you looking for our viewing demo, or is?
Yeah, well, obviously your social media is probably younger.
Oh,
correct?
very much, yes.
So just.
One moment, please.
It's going to take me a little bit of time to find out.
All right, no worries.
Okay. Well, this is our, you can.
This is the demo that we have. Information.
But do you have that up there? We have also our internal demo versus on, this is on traveling though. This is our, speaks to the, who watches the show.
Yeah, I don't know what specifically.
No, I was just looking here. And in the presentation, this particular, and I'll be happy to share it with you again. I think you.
Something in the, sorry about this. Hold on. So, yeah, the demos that we're talking about.
Yes, then right after this. These are our digital metrics, but then right after this, let's, I think you had the breakdown on majority U.S. We have, there we go.
Oh, sorry about that.
U.S., Philippines, Mexico, Colombia, and Thailand are our top 5 social media. And then we have, it's a 60-40 split on gender. We did have the, yes, and they're the ages below. So 46%.
Yeah, that's impressive because it's really hard sometimes to get that demographic, especially the social media piece of it, of the demographic. So it's pretty big.
And that's actually something for where we were well suited when really the marketplace changed from television viewing. Most millennials do not even own TVs now, and they watch everything on phone or tablet. We were well served because our show is all about young people, and they tap into it just organically.
Right.
So whether everything that they do, every message that they're sending out when they're here for 2 weeks is basically their medium of choice.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the
Yeah.
their social top
Makes
states.
sense.
Oh, yes, actually, if you wanted to.
Sure. So we did some research on what states, based on our fans on social media. So that would be Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. The top states and cities for us are California, Texas, Nevada, Florida, Georgia, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and New York. Mm-hmm. Top countries: the U.S., Philippines, Mexico, Indonesia, Brazil, and Venezuela. And that's our fans through our social media.
All right. Thank you.
Mr. Murdoch.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. One more quick question. Thanks for letting us ask you these questions. If you had Miss Universe here, and she is Filipino, we have a lot of Filipinos that live in Northern California. It's a great demographic for the casinos. And would she be doing any kind of appearances out in the public, and will she be here for more than a day? And does the RSCVA or any other properties besides the host have access
Absolutely.
to her?
Absolutely, and not even just for the event, and this is something we've talked about internally. We're not just limited to the 2 weeks of the event. Someone, hopefully Miss Teen and a Miss USA will be crowned. We have the whole year. So if there is a major event in October or anything else that you want us to bring Miss Universe back or the woman that is crowned here, on May 2nd, we have access. So this is for everyone that we have a partnership with, that we would be able to work with everyone. And obviously, aside from the event itself, I look at the event as a way to just get the ball rolling, and we are able to do whatever you would like throughout the rest of the year as well. So we would look at it as a long-term partnership, and just that is all icing on the cake and promotion. And I do agree, Catriona, and she's really an amazing title holder. So I think she would be. She just went to Canada last week, and somebody put something together in 2 days, and I think something like 25,000 people showed up for one event. So we would be very much open to that.
All right. Any further discussion or questions at this time? You know, I do have one further question, you know, and I have to be quite honest. I have some major concern with this in regards to, we do have a lot of legacy events here that we contribute to. This will be the first time we've ever had an ask of this magnitude in size. Now, I understand that the exposure that comes with your show is tremendous, and evidently by your presence, and also in all the platforms, i.e. digital and social media, and also TV, you have quite a presence. But 350,000 in regards to our ask is tremendous. It's way more than we've ever done. Barracuda Championship, for example, is a premier PGA golf tournament, 5 days here in northern Nevada, and we have a multitude of airings on the Golf Channel while they're here, and I don't think we've given them more than 60,000 ever. And so, and for me, this is a significant investment for just airtime and exposure. And so I have a real challenge with this, especially being that I don't see the cost benefit in the room nights that will cover the data isn't there yet for me in regards to making sure that there's going to be enough recovery in room nights that's going to cover any ask anywhere close to the 350,000. So I have some serious concern with that number just right out the gate. And I understand that there's a lot of potential here, but I don't know where exactly that is going to be for me. So I have a real tough time getting there. And when it comes to us spending money, I would rather see, and we talk about this significantly, I would rather see what would it be, and this is probably more to staff, Ms. Cunningham, what would we, if we were to spend $100,000 or $200,000 into a digital media buy or a TV media buy, what could we do with that kind of money? And I want to know what's the potential there?
We did reach out to our partners, and Decker Royal, our PR firm out in New York, indicated, Ben, you might have to help me. They indicated that we could be on the Jimmy Kimmel show, Ellen, that type of media buy, be on the show and kind of direct the content is what they indicated with that money.
Okay.
All right? Am I correct? Yeah. Or Today Show.
What does that mean, though? I mean, that means, like, what are we talking about? Like a commercial, or, I mean, what you're saying, how do you,
Yeah, I mean, the audience of the Miss USA pageant is going to be larger than that. I mean, a couple million in the U.S. and then outside in 70-plus countries. We don't have the Nielsen statistics on that, but a lot of eyeballs.
I just want to clarify, because you indicated commercial, but you could provide us the opportunity to purchase commercial time at a discount, correct? Is that what that meant? That's what you mean by that?
That's separate airtime. That would be a commercial on Fox for Reno. The 2-hour program, there'll be a significant portion of that program will be highlighting the sights and sounds of Reno, which is a commercial in and of itself.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to clarify. Right. Thanks.
And because obviously in television, with the advent of DVRs, people don't watch the commercial as much as when they're watching a show. They tend to go through it. So that's one of the values of actually promoting within the broadcast. And the broadcast is not just domestic, it's obviously international. While you have people that are here that normally would never have traveled here, who will probably come back after the positive experience that they've had. And we have, while every single contestant and our title holders can feed out every day if you wanted. Any commercial that you have that you would want to feed on or play digitally, I would, if we make the announcement, I would take your commercials, and I would have no problem having our title holders feed them out every day if you wanted.
And one other point on that is we also have, just so everybody understands, and we did cover this in the last meeting, but there's going to be 4, if we bring Teen USA here too, there's 4 events. There's a teen preliminary show and a teen finale show. The teen finale show and the preliminary show are digitally broadcast. Then we have a Miss USA preliminary show that's digitally broadcast, and the Miss USA finale that is on prime time on Fox. Our numbers on our digital programs are pretty massive as well. So you were saying teen was, Paula, you had it?
Teen last year we had, and it stays up. So we had, I think, 1.4, 1.5 million views on the teen show, and that's when you play that into the internal, the affluency level, and the travel, more apt to travel statistic of the people that are fan base. So every one of those digital components, if you're watching a prelim show, obviously we would promote the area, and we have absolute free reign to put in any commercial, anything we want.
Right, that was the point. So we obviously don't control the airwaves with Fox. They put ads on the television. But for our digital streams, we can put commercial time on those for Reno Tahoe.
Right, and the chairman's right. We do have a lot of events in the region that, but I think in terms of the ask, because you mentioned, PGA event and things like that, the ask really goes to the magnitude of the brand. And so people are so familiar with that. So I would imagine that's why it's like that, where the PGA event, who could rattle that off your head unless we're sitting here? They can't.
Right.
So I think that's the difference in a brand and a reach and the magnitude of those numbers.
Absolutely, and because I have come from the other side in Hawaii, literally, if we all decide that we are moving forward, tomorrow, Reno Tahoe will be tweeted around the world. Every country that's following us that talks about it and wants to see, that will be a message that's out there, that will be probably a trending topic, that will be, because the second this announcement comes out, we have a dedicated fan base that would immediately, so there are very few events where immediately, globally, the name of a city or a state or is immediately mentioned.
And so let me ask you this, would it be possible to be able to sort of work with your social media team to brand the destination and your event simultaneously together to make sure, there's that messaging?
Absolutely.
Because really that's sort of our job to brand the destination, your job to brand the event. But I think if you could, do it, we were just having a conversation. This is our social media guru. She's amazing. She was impressed by the numbers. And so I said, well, what does that look like for you? Because that's really, for us, where we can get the most out of it. But she's the social media guru. She's amazing. It's something that I follow, and a lot of you probably in the room don't. But I know how talented you are and what you've been able to accomplish, and it's really phenomenal. So I asked her, the opportunity to be able to do both, and she said, that kind of reach is tremendous. So I think if you married the two, but if we had access to be able to have that work with your department that does that as well.
Absolutely. We would want that, actually. We would want you, nobody knows what you're trying to market better than you do. And so we actually, as a matter of fact, he's arriving now, but the head of our social media digital component is here today, ostensibly to meet with you, for you to tell us what you want us to do. Because it's a partnership, and we want to be able to maximize it, and we would really take direction from you. Ideally, we would want to have everything hitting our landing page on the 3 weeks leading up to the pageant. are the most trafficked in the world. Our Miss Universe
Right.
beat the Olympics. So, so I would really want that.
I just wanted to ask to make sure that, we have access to that content, because then I think that, that you can really leverage that. So that's good to know.
Yes,
Thank you.
and not just for this event, throughout the year. So if we're doing things and you want, if something is coming up for Reno Tahoe that you want us to promote,
Yeah, and it's not typically, am I correct, and not typically a demographic that Reno is sort of known for? I mean, you have put us on the map with that, but it hasn't been for a very, very long time. And I think, there's only a few of you in the region that are actually getting that kind of reach and exposure. So, I mean, my thought is that we don't typically get this kind of demographic. Am I correct?
Christina, can you come up to the mic or step up?
Sorry to put you on the spot, but I love her. She's amazing. And I mean, I
So,
wish you guys knew.
Jump
the
up there right by
magnitude of what
Mr. Jimenez.
what this girl does, because in my business is in my private business. My business is 18 to 24, and they come in all the time and say, "Oh my God, look at this cool Reno Tahoe video. Have you seen this, Hillary?" I love it. I'm like, no, I've never seen it. But I mean, just to have sort of that demographic excited about the region, I've never seen that. I mean, Reno, unfortunately, and many of you know this, for many years, you brand your region on what happens nationally. And for a long time, people would say, "Oh, Reno 911," because that was the national conversation, because that's what people were seeing. So that's exactly how people perceive you, by the national exposure that you get and where that comes from and the brand it comes from. And that's why people identified Reno 911. So that's what I think was kind of interesting, because you don't typically get this demographic to be able to reach.
Right, yeah, there's no doubt the reach is big on social media. And I think just from the social media side, it's how much control or leverage can we use for that and positioning the right message.
Christina, state your name for the record.
Christina Ernie with the RSCVA.
Thank you.
So official.
Thank you.
I mean, the investment is huge also. So, I mean, that I guess I'm not going to speak to, 'cause it's bigger than me. But
But it's something that I think, the reason I'm saying this, because I think it's something that you're really, really good at. That's sort of your bailiwick that you could really capitalize on. Am I right?
Absolutely. If this is something that comes to our destination and the board agrees that it's a good job bringing it here, that we would be involved and work with you and really ask you guys to position our destination in the best way that possible.
And we would do
Utilize
that.
it.
And, just for the board to understand, the one, I think, distinction between Miss USA and other, whether it's award shows or other shows of this nature on television, is that for Miss USA, it's really important that the destination becomes a character as part of that 2-hour telecast. Very, very different than other shows. If you're watching the SAG Awards, you're not going to know where the SAG Awards is being filmed. It's irrelevant to the production of that show. Miss USA uses the destination because it's not just a show. It's a 2-week period leading up to that final event. It becomes a character in and of itself of the show, and it's very important for the production staff to have something interesting like Reno Tahoe, where there's just many interesting aspects of the city that they want to highlight. If not, we could just go to a soundstage and shoot this every year, right? I mean, we don't want to do that. And I don't think that a city, there's another show really, and we've all, a few of us here have worked on other shows. There's nothing else that really would highlight a city as much as probably a Miss USA show, that's for sure. Just because the contestants end up being here for such a period of time, and it becomes part of that show. Very, very different than other television programs and award shows, I would say.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councilman Lawson.
It's impressive, 76% are 35 and under. That's an impressive demographic. Can you back up one slide, please?
Sure.
This question is for Jennifer. We spent $350 million on advertising. If we spent $350,000 on advertising, could we expect these kind of returns? Is that a realistic? I'm trying to compare it. Because we're already spending
No, we
a
could
lot of
never
money.
get that.
Are we gonna get this type of a return on the same 350,000 spent elsewhere?
20 million followers.
Christina, you want to come up and answer
20.1
that?
million followers.
I'm just digesting this all right now.
I'm sorry, I just think it's important if we do this, that this is.
It has to make
it's got-
financial
well,
sense
and
and.
it's got to
This
be where we
isn't
have the
including Katrina.
content accessibility. And so she clarified, and that's great.
And this does not include Catriona, our reigning Miss Universe, who has 5 million followers by herself.
Right.
5 million.
Yeah.
So Christina, do you want to answer the councilman's question?
She's like royalty. I was reading about her. She's really impressive.
I mean, do I think that 20 million reach is worth $350,000?
Yes, that was his question.
I'm gonna give you $350,000 and you get to spend it wherever you'd like.
Well, just kidding. I wouldn't say that that's worth it. Just that directly $350,000 for 20 million followers. Right, that's what I am, in the terms of how much I would pay social media influencers. When we had, when we do social media influencer programs, we don't spend the way that those numbers add up. That's not, it depends.
But the
Sorry,
ask
I'm
is
stumbling.
not for
The ask, but it depends on how many
strictly social
posts
media.
they're doing. I mean, 20 million followers, is that a one-time post or is that 4 times? Because then that reach increases. In terms of looking at the quality of their followers, how engaged are they following? What is that engagement? Just because they follow doesn't mean they're engaged audience. And so there's a number of different things that I would look at for that reach and ask for, and stories posted, what type of content, if it's curated, if I get to kind of curate that message, if they're doing it on their own, if it's them on a stage just tagging Reno, that's not as valuable, in my opinion, to our destination as if they're going to go rafting down the river.
Right.
So, I mean, all
And
those
those were
things
the
come into
things,
play.
and
But
that's
that's
where-
only one component, though. The social media is
Right.
a very small component, but there's a lot of brands that they want to be able to control how you work with them, and some won't even allow you to have access to that. That's why I asked if we would have access, and that's why.
You absolutely, and to just, while I appreciate it, the 350,000, and I do think a lot of it, social media, obviously, because we do have great numbers and that plays part of it. I do want to be clear that we are unique in that we are bringing people, we are hiring local crew, we are paying for per diem production, all of that. So, and aside from the network broadcast and the exposure there. So social media is a big component of it, but I'm not saying 350,000 is going strictly for social media.
Right.
And
Yeah, there's
to-
the television side of it too. There's many different components.
Yes.
So you can't say, hey, 350,000 is just going to that. I just want to make sure, because I know when it comes to social media content, that people are, especially brands, like to really limit that. But she has the ability to take that and run with it. And that's what I wanted to make sure, that it makes sense for the destination to have access to that.
Okay.
And that's great.
And again, if you meet with Mike Mitnick, who's flying in today, is we could put together an entire plan for the year of anything. If I bring Miss Universe, Miss USA, people back here to even, aside from everything that we do in an event, and I do want to be clear, all of the young women that are coming here to compete, for the rest of their lives, they will talk about Reno Tahoe. This is, the event that happens here is a pinnacle moment in their life. And what I have found in the past is they all become goodwill ambassadors. No matter what they do, they always talk about this event. So.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Ernie. Thank you. Mr. Nat Caroselli.
Oh, wait.
Thank you. I'd like to make a comment, and then I'd like to ask a question. And I wasn't here for the February meeting, and I want to let you all know I come from a position of ignorance. I haven't seen a pageant in I don't know how many years, okay? So I really know nothing about pageants. And as I was looking at the agenda item, I was thinking to myself, this is the other day, what have I got to offer here? Which is, like I said, I really didn't have anything at that point in time. But yesterday morning, somebody in my office came in and said, now, you're on the RSCVA, and I was listening to the radio on the way in this morning, and I was listening to, they were talking about the RSCVA bringing the Miss Universe contest, Miss Universe USA pageant to Reno. And I said, oh, really? What do they have to say? She said, it wasn't very good. And I said, well, I don't know anything about it. Why don't you write down a kind of a consensus of what you heard, okay? I'm just passing that on. I'm not, taking a position one way or the other at this point. So the consensus of opinion was, this is a lot of people calling into this very popular radio station. It's not a good idea. It was a waste of money, and whoever watches the pageants anymore, okay? So all of a sudden I'm saying, holy mackerel, this doesn't sound very good. So at that point, I called my wife and I said, what do you think? And she said, I agree with what that person said. And I said, call some of your girlfriends and give me their feedback. So she called about 6 or 7 of her girlfriends. She said, pretty much what you told me over the phone is their response, that they're not in favor of pageants, they're not in favor of bringing a pageant here. They think it falls under things that we don't really approve of today. That's my comment, just information. But again, I come from a point of ignorance. So secondly, I started thinking again, like, we have the VVK, an ad agency, and I know we talked about the potential dollars here, and we have a PR firm, Decker Royal. I haven't heard anybody say, sitting in front of BVK and Decker Royal and say, the other ones that are handling our ad and our PR, would you recommend, or would you ever suggest that we would bring a pageant to this town, a USA pageant or anything of that nature? Would it be good for our brand? Would it continue to bring the brand to a level we want to bring it to, that we're working so hard to do, because we didn't have a very good brand before? So I'd like to hear some feedback from, did anybody ask our PR people and our ad people, if we came to you with this proposal, would you say we're crazy? Would you say it's the greatest thing I've ever seen? They'd have to say something, and we're paying them a lot of money, and we're very happy with what they're doing and the progress they're making. So I guess I'd have to ask Jennifer, what would they say? But again, I come from a point of ignorance. I'm just looking for information.
Yes, I had Ben reach out to Decker Royal, and Esther spoke with BBK and EXL. You guys, is Ben in the room? Oh, maybe not. Oh, if you guys would like to share with the group.
Yes, we did reach out to our marketing partners and get their opinions and advice on the media value, the branding positioning. Concerns were raised by EXL that the value of the proposals were 36% less than the proposal estimate from the media exposure value. They noted that 90% of the value was for international coverage, which is not our media market typically, and also that the demographics that we normally go after in our paid and social outreach is 25 to 49 as our age group. The viewership of the TV show telecast itself is adults 50 plus. 60% of that is adults 50 and plus. Of course, the social digital will be younger, skewed younger ages we've already seen here. BBK's concerns were noted, and I'd be happy to read that statement if you would like.
And also about image.
Right, and that's their concern. So if you like, I can read this from BBK. Over the last several years, the Miss USA pageant has been faced with declining viewership, significant public scrutiny, and negative press. While it appears that the Miss USA pageant is taking steps towards refreshing its image and representing a new generation of female leaders, it's still unknown whether those changes will result in improved perception and ultimately ratings. Moreover, the pageant's current viewership is misaligned with Reno Tahoe's target audience. Given Reno Tahoe's commitment to focusing on partnership that enhance the brand and inspire visitation, we believe that a marketing partnership with the pageant is not prudent at this time. Ben can speak to some of the opinions of Decker Royal from a PR standpoint.
Ben McDonald, RSCVA, for the record. So we reached out to Decker Royal as well to get their opinion. They've been managing our brand from the PR standpoint. Some of those points they made as well. Part of their initial response was that generally, they have no reason to doubt any of the figures, the statistics as far as viewership. International isn't generally their reach. They're more national, and aligned with where the majority of our visitors come from as well. But they said the timing of hosting a beauty pageant in this era feels off-brand for Reno Tahoe. They suggested that we've spent the last 3 years developing a brand of ambition and working to redefine this destination and giving visitors a new reason to visit. And they felt like this destination is designed to attract visitors who live in the moment, act as participants, not spectators. And for all the best intentions, this would seems like somewhat of a spectator sport for our visitors, for our target. I think to your question earlier, Commissioner, as far as the investment, we asked them specifically on a $100,000 investment, what else could we do with that? And they said, if we had the budget to make significant investment in a paid partnership, it would be with a broadcast partner like Jimmy Kimmel, The Bachelor, Ellen, or Today Show, and the terms would be dictated in great part by us. They also added that, obviously, they work on behalf of this destination, and they would be more than happy to work with Miss USA to make the most of this, but they definitely felt that it was off-brand and that they could potentially make a larger impact with that amount of money.
So my next question is, would BVK or Decker Royal, if you asked them straight up, should we do it or should we not, what would they say? They're not giving us an opinion.
Well,
We're paying them a lot of money for opinions. We don't get an opinion?
But you talked about this is a demographic that wouldn't be in the demographic we go after. And isn't that the reason why you do look at other events? Because they're demographics that we typically wouldn't reach. And I think you better be a little careful about when we're talking about their brand, when we talk about ambition as well. A lot of these women are very ambitious. So I want to make that clear right now. I have 2 little girls that work for me that are both do pageants. I got to tell you, they are some of the most impressive young women that I have ever seen. And I asked them, I said, what do you think about if Reno were to host that? And they said, are you serious? Their eyes lit up, and both of them grew up without fathers and said, that my whole life has been, struggles, and that it gave me confidence. And I go out there, and one of them just won Miss Sparks, by the way, who works for me. And she said, yeah, I'm so proud of her. But she said, Hillary, I didn't have a lot of confidence because I grew up without a father, but she goes, they helped me go out there and build my confidence and help me speak to people and my communication skills. And she said, now, I have opportunities I never had before, and to work with other women and those things. So I want to be very careful when we talk about the negativity of, that sometimes that it can sort of generate. I was really, really impressed with those 2 young women that work for me that gave me the feedback. I thought it was, I'm glad to see that, they're taking that leadership role. And Reno hasn't always had the best brand either, just saying.
No, I thank you for saying that. I do want to address the fact, because I came into this 20 years ago, I was a television producer. I was not 100% clear on the pageants. We are an aspirational brand. I've got, obviously, how do I have 2 Harvard grads in this group that are competing this year? How do I, the same night of the show, Miss Universe organization is being honored by Smile Train for the millions of dollars and the awareness that we've created for them around the world. Be it rebuilding a village with our title holders raising money rebuilding the village after Typhoon Yolanda knocked everything out. I really, for me, anytime that I feel that people are giving the young women that come through the system short shrift, I get defensive about it. I get a little motherly about it, probably because they blow me away. And I really 100% believe that these are the leaders of the future. I would also invite anybody. I've never had a person that has come in as a judge that had no idea what to expect, and they all become fans of the organization, and more importantly, the women. To the other end, yes, the fact that 3 happen to be on The Bachelor this year and have garnered all sorts of press, that plays to the other side. But the caliber of the women that compete and have found this as a confidence. One of the women that was the legislative director on Capitol Hill dealing with the Foreign Relations Committee, she got into pageants, again in a weird situation, learning to walk again. She was so self-conscious, she got into to learn how to walk, got her confidence back through that, went to law school, and then is sitting there in front of admirals and generals talking to them about, and my father's an admiral, so I know they're tough, and he used to vacation here in Reno when he came back from Vietnam. But these are all women. There are thousands of stories of everything. They are who they are today. And I'm sorry I'm a little emotional about this because I believe in them so much. And I believe in who they are. And it's very, very easy to look at a chart and say something. And I think that there are and saying off-brand when people don't know our brand. And when people come and they participate and they see it live, they are very, very supportive, and so I just needed to say that for the record.
And if I could also, this opinion is not anywhere related to, the value of the event or the importance of these young women. Absolutely, primarily it's driven by a thought that these metrics are primarily catered toward this event, not necessarily the destination.
I'd just like to make another comment. I'm not trying to sway anybody's vote because, like I said, I come from a point of ignorance. But as a board member, I always felt you made the better decisions when you had more information, and that was information I felt that I wanted to pass on. And also, as a board member, we hire an ad agency and a PR agency. We don't ask for their opinions because we're paying them a lot of money. And if we agree with what they're doing, and does this fit or not fit with what we're doing, as a board member, you can't make good decisions without getting enough information to give you an idea of which way you should go. So I'm not trying to sway anybody. We're all big people here. Over 21, we can make up our own minds. But I always felt you made a better decision with better information.
Thank you, Mr. Carousel, and I agree with you. And I think that that was one reason we needed to have a robust conversation. Is not for the validity of the program or the Miss USA pageant, but realistically the time frame and the money asked, so that we could have a little bit more clarification for the board members that weren't here for Jonathan's last presentation, and so that we could have this robust conversation because of that short time frame. Right. And that's really what the intent was: is to get all the data out on the table so that we can have this discussion. I have Mr. Sturbins, and then I have Mr. Wood. Mr. Sturbins.
Yeah, just a quick question for Phil and Robert. So if we were to consider funding this, where would that money come from, and what would not be able to be executed in the existing budget, if anything? Would anything change in how we operate to be able to do this?
We would most likely take the money from marketing or the air service fund. As we're getting later in the year, towards the end of the fiscal year, we have less and less choices. So we would, depending on the finalized amount, that's the most likely areas we would go to in the budget for funding of this.
Bob, can I say something quickly?
Yeah, Mr. Simon.
Yeah, and this goes back to just about marketing and demographics and who Reno Tahoe is trying to reach. A few weeks ago, and I talked about this in the last presentation. If you went to Reno Tahoe website, it was a travelogue with 2 millennials in their 20s, 2 women in their 20s, about a day in Reno Tahoe, which I thought was fantastic because that really did align with what we're trying to do. 102 women here for 2-week period is going to blow that out of the water. Like, that's the point. So, I mean, I don't know, you guys know better than me who Reno Tahoe is trying to appeal to, but that's who you were trying to appeal to. Those people would have to go onto the Reno Tahoe website to check out, which, by the way, was whoever made that video and whoever did that content, it was great. I mean, I loved it. We can, with our social media arm, we can amplify that by 20, 50, 100. I mean, that's the point. And when, hopefully we'll be able to, lead up, hopefully we'll be able to do it here. And starting tomorrow, we could ramp up for an entire month leading up to this event, right? The event is just that's just an event. That's the finale. But in terms of what we could do starting tomorrow to not only the event, but even post-event, I think we could do a pretty good job for Reno Tahoe.
And even posting that particular video, we would send that out to all of our state title holders to send that out immediately. Guess where I'm going? It's very easy for us.
Mr. Murdoch. Oh, yeah, Mr. Wood, I'm sorry. Mr. Wood.
That's fine. Mr. Chairman, may I interrupt and follow up Mr. Sturbins? We also may have some funding left in our contingency fund, so we would have 3, instead of 2, we might have 3 areas we could go to.
Do you know approximately how much that'd be?
Robert Chisel, for the record, the contingency fund has $400,000 in it at this time.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Wood.
Thank you for being here. I have 2 daughters, so anybody that advocates for young women, I applaud you for that. I do have a quick question. From a historical viewpoint, how much exposure time is dedicated to the host cities during the broadcast itself?
It varies. I would say on average it's 4 minutes just on the telecast itself. But typically we over-deliver because now with Facebook Live and everything else, there are all sorts of other things that are going on at the same time.
Mr. Murdoch.
I'd ask staff this, just what's it worth if you had to go buy this? Is it worth $350? I'd like to know a number. If you would put one on there, would staff recommend there? If you were going to buy it, what would you want to pay for it?
It's such a hard question. I do think it's worth, with the TV and the exposure and the social media, I would say it's worth $350. Would we go out and buy it per se? No, but there certainly is a benefit. There really is. It's a hard thing to just answer on the fly. I think they're all agreeing that it's a good visibility for a destination, getting that TV exposure and the social media. So
Thank you, Ms. Cunningham. Ms. Shukar, I have one other question for you. I'm not familiar with the pageant, so can you tell me what are the last few locations that you guys have shot the show in?
Sure. Last year was Shreveport, Louisiana.
Okay.
We have been in Baton Rouge, Las Vegas, and Doral. Oh yeah. Oh well, no, Doral was Miss Universe. So, but I'm blending it with Thailand.
That's fine. That would work. So Baton Rouge, Shreveport, and Las Vegas were some of the most recent shows. And you shot them at the same time this May period?
It has varied. Typically, it has either been June, but then because we have the network support, that's why they want to move us up to the top of sweeps. But
gotcha. So, and I'm going to voice one other challenge that I see currently, and this will be for everybody driving here. Being that Reno is a beautiful city come June and July, and the leaves are out, you can drive to the lake, it's gorgeous, there's things to see right now. It's a little challenging. It's not the foliage hasn't come out yet. We don't have our spring flowers. The city is beautiful, but you don't have also the aesthetics that are really, the trees that line the river are beautiful in the summer. They're not there yet. So from a production standpoint, is this time of year going to be challenging for your production team to put together the image that they're necessarily looking for a destination, because I can imagine Shreveport, Louisiana in June is beautiful, flowers everywhere, lots of growth, lots of greenery, you got some depth of color. I've lived here my entire life. I know that when I moved my wife here, she's like, wow, it's really brown there. So there's some challenges with that. And I want to be aware of that. What do you guys plan on doing from a production standpoint to mitigate some of those challenges?
Well, first of all, Shreveport in June was about 120 degrees. So
didn't say it was cold. I definitely didn't say that. I just said it might be pretty.
So we had extra, powder, and obviously having Chris here is helpful. But I don't want to say the magic of television, but I know we've asked for your commercials. I know you have a lot of video. I'm not worried about that at all, just because it depends on how we shoot and intercut, and we've never run into an issue with that. And Miss USA many years ago used to be in February, so that was always a challenge.
Okay, great. All right, is there any further questions from Ms. Shugart or Mr. Sines? Seeing none. All right. Thank you so much for your presentation. So I'm going to bring it back to the board. Now, we've had a robust conversation on both sides of pro and con for the event. At this time, I'm kind of looking for some direction from the board in regards to where we'd like to go with this. The current ask is $350,000 for a sponsorship or special event funding for the event. As we've heard from staff, there is funding available. So where would we like to go?
Mr. Chair, let me make a motion. We'll see if we can get this thing kicked off. We can argue about it, but I'm going to make a motion that we fund that fully at $350,000.
Okay, I have a motion from Mr. Lawson. I have and a second from Madam Mayor. So I have a motion and a second currently at the table to fund it in its entirety at $350,000. So I'm going to go for a vote. All those in favor signify by any further discussion? Yeah, sorry, thank you, Mr. Murdoch.
So let me understand. I know the state was considering kicking in $100,000, correct? And
that's correct.
Does that come off the 350? And how does that work? And then secondly, is there a number? Does it all have to be 350? Is there a number? Is it 100,000? What is the number? I mean, sorry to ask that question.
As the mayor's pointing out, that is the motion. The motion is at 350 right now, and we can't really bring NCOTS funding into our position at now. So it's really the 350 from this board, from our organization. So that's really the motion that as outlined to me. And so we have to vote on that before we can kind of take a position. And so what they do with NCOT is completely separate from what we're doing here. And yes, but the discussion has been NCOT would match up to 100,000 anything that this board would support. So that was the discussion. So for further side discussion. Any further side discussion in regards to this motion? Okay, looking for taking the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? No. Nay. This motion carries. It looks like I understand. I understand. You wait. So I want to just affirm the votes. So there was Mr. Murdoch, you were a yay. Mr. Dillard, you were a yay. Madam Mayor, you were a yay. Mr. Lawson, you were a yay. Mr. Wood and Ms. Silver. Okay. And so the nays were Mr. Sturbins, myself, and Mr. Caraselli. All right, so I didn't say it. You didn't say it. You were. What were you? Yay or a nay? I have to do this for the record, buddy.
You can't abstain.
There's a consensus of the board that would like to do this, so that tells me they're maybe a lot smarter than I am. So not letting my ego get in the way, I have to go along with their opinions.
Okay, so then the vote changes to, so the vote is now 7-2. The motion carries 7-2 with support for $350,000 for the special event. So thank you, Ms. Shugart, Ms. Seidens. We look forward to the event, and hopefully we can do some great work. So you've got a lot of work in front of you. Thank you very much. All right. We are back to item E3, which is RSCVA staff update. Mr. Dillon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. and congratulations to the Miss USA pageant.
She packs a punch.
The RSCVA has been selected from a field of over 100 local companies as one of the best places to work in Reno and Sparks through a program sponsored by the Reno Gazette-Journal. This is the first time in the organization's history that we've been selected, and the authority is proud to be a finalist.
Zero faith in those guys.
Staff is engaged with our accounting and finance department in preparation of 1920 annual budget, which will be presented to the finance committee in the very near future, and then eventually to the board of directors. As we approach the fourth quarter of the year, convention bookings are pacing right along. We anticipate meeting or certainly coming very close in delivering on our annual convention quota of 280,000 room nights of future book conventions and meetings business. Vice President of Sales Mike Larraguetta will deliver detailed highlights in a few minutes. In the tourism and leisure segment, Art Jimenez will report in a few minutes on the very successful Expedia campaigns and other programs we have introduced with other travel partners in the last few months. The complete transfer on Wild Creek Golf Course and all of its assets to Washoe County has entered escrow, and it is just a matter now of a short period of time for this transaction to close and be completed. With our facilities, a few highlights include at the Livestock Event Center, the mezzanine level dock bar room will be complete in its full remodel by the end of May, well in time for Reno Rodeo, Bob Feist Invitational, and other important equestrian events. We'll enjoy there new ceiling tile, fresh paint throughout, new LED lighting, and new engineered LVT wood flooring, along with new furnishings. The entire indoor arena is now scheduled to receive all new lighting, and later today is a agenda item authorizing its installation. The lighting will not be installed until September. We have 297 new light fixtures to put in there, and it will take a full month of uninterrupted time. However, the result in the fall is designed to give a brighter interior and save on our power costs at the Livestock Events Center. The indoor arena and pavilion will also experience resealing of all seams and joints, as well as getting weatherproofing for the skylights. And as previously reported, the exhibit hall and well as the Armory 2 will be demolished just after the rodeo. We're still waiting, Mr. Lucy, on the health department permit, if you could help us with that. The remodel of the National Bowling Stadium is running along for completion on October 4th. Chad Murphy, the executive director, was here just a few weeks ago. They will return on April 22nd to take a site inspection of the remodel's progress. Right now, they're very happy, and according to the city of Reno, the entire project is staying within its budget. The NBS will reopen on or about October 4th. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. DeLone. Ms. Cunningham.
Okay, if I can draw your attention to our monthly and year-to-date scorecards. Last month, we were asked to drill down on the visits for the website from the LA market and why they were down. And next month, we'll be more prepared to give you a full presentation quickly on all of the changes that have gone into impacting the website visits. But the short answer for right now is that, and we touched on this last month, we've changed the digital strategy that we've had from one of awareness, just brand awareness, to one more of engagement. So it's more qualified, quality people looking at the website and acting on it. Engagement is a step before selecting to purchase a trip or come to Reno. And because of that shift in strategy, we moved our dollars from network display advertising to more of paid social support. And in addition to that, the media spend is down 27%. Because as you recall, we really ramped up, it was about an 18-month period with the new branding. In looking at the scorecard, I'll draw you to that January 2019. In addition to what I've just mentioned about the change in strategy, change in spend, media calendar for January of 19 versus 18, there was one less week in January of 19 that we purchased advertising in. It just fell into February as opposed to January. So you'll see that Seattle websites visits and Los Angeles are both down considerably. We look at the San Francisco website sessions, which is at 14.3, which is showing an increase as compared to the other two. And that anomaly, we're looking at San Francisco being a more mature market and January being a heavy ski season where there was a lot of visitation to the site to check weather and get more information on the ski product. When we go to the year-to-date numbers, you'll see, because of the change in the strategy, you'll see both Seattle and LA are down, which we expect. I do want to bring your attention to the third line, which says number of web session partner referrals. That's one thing that we looked at to say, is our strategy working? I apologize that we have a formula error on the year-over-year percentage. It says negative 16.2. It's actually, if you look at the numbers, our error, but it's actually up 43%, which helps us to explain with the change of strategy in getting more qualified visitors. More people are going out to our partners because they're not just flying on the site to see the branding and then going off. They're interested in looking at more things. And again, next month we'll have some a PowerPoint and be a little more thorough. But also in drilling down, all of our visitor planner requests are up. Visitor planners viewed online is up like 350%. Newsletter signups are up. So we're feeling okay about this decision. So I don't want anyone to panic when they see that those website visits are down. Overall occupancy, if we look at January 2019, it continues to slip a little bit. We had a decline of 4% for January in our room nights. Again, the ADR, though, was up considerably, and this overall contributed to a 4.8 increase in taxable revenue. And I have two other things I want to just touch on, which are great news. For air service, starting July, as Alaska Airlines, I've mentioned in the past, but their load factors have been really high. And in July, they are putting on a 737 aircraft, not a MAX, but this will be the first time since April of 2018 that they've used this larger aircraft, which will be bringing in 100 additional seats into the market on a daily basis. And we just found out last week that we've been talking to United back and forth about Houston daily air service. They've been in the market on a limited basis, primarily over the ski season. And we just saw that starting in September, they have a daily flight from Houston to Reno. RASC will be supporting them with marketing dollars. We'll be in there on digital. And we'll be, we're anxious to sit down with United and have further discussions on how we can help support that service. Along with that discussion is daily Chicago service on United that we've been really focused on. And last week I went to Fort Lauderdale to meet with Spirit Airlines in conjunction with the airport. Interestingly enough, I mean, we all know out of Vegas, Southwest Airlines is their biggest air carrier. Do you know that Spirit Airlines is now #2 out of Las Vegas? So it really, they have a great business model. They focus on the leisure traveler, and the markets they serve are not only across the United States, but also south into South America, and there's some other markets down there. They don't have a huge footprint other than Vegas on the West Coast. So they're looking as early as spring of 2020 to start activating some Reno service. So we're discussing that, and I've told them that we have funds available to help support them and help with mitigation. So That's my good news. Thank you.
Mr. Murdoch. Yeah, go ahead.
Jennifer, great job. The gentleman that is at Spirit is a personal friend of ours in Reno. He was with Alaska, so he loves Reno, which is a big deal for us. But what Spirit does, I think, in the old days when Southwest would open a market up, they usually would go in with three flights a day. But Spirit has become the new real, they're a low-cost carrier, but they're like the old Southwest before Southwest became a legacy carrier. So when they hit a market, they stimulate it. So this is really big information, I think good news for Reno Tahoe, because if they do choose, say, Austin or another couple different cities that you're looking at, it would be huge for Reno because of the stimulation. So just a thought for
Well, and
the board.
I'll just continue. That's a really good point. We asked John Kirby the question, what is the stimulation activation? So in other words, how much market share did they steal? How much did they stimulate? They said 100%. 100% stimulation. So.
Thank you, Ms. Cunningham. Mr. Larragetta.
Thank you, sir. First of all, Mr. Dillard, I just want to let you know that I reached out to the agents for Mr. Clooney and Mr. Gear, and they're both available to play Mr. Murdoch. Jennifer wanted to go on record that she voted Clooney and I voted Gear. So. Prior to jumping into the numbers, I'd like to just take a quick moment for an introduction. It's my pleasure to introduce our new Regional Director of Convention Sales for the South Central region based in Dallas, Texas, Ms. Roma Girajano. So just a little bit about Roma's history, her work history. Prior to joining the RSCVA on March 18th, Roma spent 10 years with Caesars Entertainment. No pattern there, of course. That both was in Las Vegas and as a remote national sales manager in Dallas. I know, sorry, Mr. Dillard, my apologies. We're done until next month. No, not kidding. After her time at Caesars, she also represented 2 major gaming casino resorts in the Texas area, in Nevada and in the Texas area, both at Station Casinos and Choctaw Casino based in Oklahoma. So we're excited to have her. We know she's doing a great job, an asset to the team, and look forward to representing Reno Tahoe. Okay, jumping into the numbers, if I could draw your attention to the scorecard. For the month of January, gross produced room nights finished at 19,004 on a goal of 18,429. As mentioned in last month's meeting, we applied the cancellation to Interbike to the January scorecard, hence you see the number of the negative 26,414. If you look at to where we are pacing, both including and excluding Interbike, if you exclude Interbike, we are at 90% to goal through January. When incorporating the cancellation of the 44,000 room nights of the Interbike cancellation, it puts us at 60% to goal. For the month of February, we were off and did not meet our goal, finalizing at 9,919 against a goal of 21,103. The good news is, as we sit here today on March 28th, March is rebounding. We anticipate by the end of close of business tomorrow, the end of the month, that we will exceed the March goal of 42,000 room nights, approximately by 5,000 or 6,000 room nights with the closing of 2 major programs. And then we had another 10,000 room nights that we anticipated to close in March that as of today will now move to April, which will then put us in a very good position as we move into April. To echo Mr. DeLone's comments, we are looking to finish the year in the 270 to 275 range. That obviously does not include the Interbike cancellation. So I think the message there is that the team, excluding the Interbike cancellation, is continuing to drive the number and meet the goal, or very close to the goal, and continuing to perform. Last month, Chairman Lucy requested an update as it relates to the convention sales activities and how we are strategically pursuing convention business. So moving forward on a monthly basis, what I'd like to report is the number of site inspections that were held the previous month, the number of room nights that these site inspections represented, the forecasted close percentage of these sites, and the percentage of these sites that is represented by new business. Since this is the last board meeting of the quarter, I'm going to provide data today based on January, February, and March. So for those combined 90 days, we concluded 24 in-market sites, representing 53,865 room nights. 13 of those 24 sites will turn definite, representing 38,035 room nights. 7 of those sites have a high probability, what we would consider tentative, and those sites represent just over 11,500 room nights. And the four remaining sites representing 4,000 room nights are looking at several cities. We'll continue to pursue those, and obviously our objective is to close that business. Of those 24 sites and those 53,000 plus room nights, 40% were represented by new business, which again is a very good sign as we open new markets and hire new people. In the last 60 days, the team has completed several activities within their respective territories and also activities in the market. A sample of some of these activities is we just concluded a fam trip with Helms Briscoe in market with 7 Helms Briscoe associates that are top lead generators, top producers that have yet to really produce for our markets. We wanted to get them in, expose them to Reno Tahoe, and show them what we're all about. We completed the Experience and Vision conference in Las Vegas last week, Conference Direct Annual Partners meeting in Atlanta, the PCMA convening leaders, Destination International Destination Showcase, Connect Sports Diversity Conference in Fort Lauderdale, which again, new conference for us to attend that was very well received. California sales call specifically for the equestrian market with our focus in Rhonda Leach's her role and responsibility. We're hosting an event at Staples Center for a Lakers-Clippers game with our new regional director based in Southern California. The California Society of Associate Executives Conference in Tacoma, Washington, which was attended by Charles Mullins. The International Franchise Association Show in Las Vegas. Connect Rockies, Meeting Industry Council in Colorado, MPA Mild America Conference, and IAE Education Program in Chicago. So a lot of activity, a lot going on. Obviously, the end goal is to drive new business to the market and get people to see our destination and close convention room nights. That's all I have. Any questions?
Great. Thank you, Mr. Larragatte, and I appreciate the update on the sales initiatives from staff. That's going to be a great piece of data. So thank you. Mr. Jimenez.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Art Jimenez for the record. January's reported monthly room nights for the tourism sector were at 53,435, or a decrease of 3,827 room nights from last January. It still puts us at 88% of the target of 60,697 room nights. Year-to-date room nights of 454,813 room nights puts us at 88% to the year-to-date total goal of 516,341. We're still seeing production out of this sector. There's a variety of reasons why we feel that this sector is taking a little dip, anywhere from the fires last summer, the fires in the fall, I-80 being closed for 3 weekends in February, the election, the CNN effect of the election. We've seen GDS corporate business slow down a little bit from the tech side into the destination. So we're continuing to monitoring all of these situations and come back with, we are addressing a plan from the tourism side to attack this sector. But again, a lot of these are items that are, and we don't have control over some of these external items, but we are monitoring this. On the partnership marketing side, we continue to fine tune our partnership marketing programs to support the destination need periods. The goal is to obviously book room nights, but increase destination exposure, ADRs, and more importantly, a booking window during our need periods. So we're in the process of completing our fourth seasonal Expedia campaign that has run in the fall and winter of 2017, 2018, and 2019. And our hotel partners have participated in this partnership marketing campaign. And some top-line findings that we can report right now. We're not quite done yet with this quarter. But we have more exposure across all of Expedia's brands with Expedia, Travelocity, Orbitz, and Hotels.com. And the more exposure we can get, the more production we can receive from this channel. Currently, all of our partners are enjoying a return on ad spend of at least 25 to 1 on production for bookings. The partners that participated in this program enjoyed double-digit increases in bookings and ADRs versus the general market that did increase through our advertising programs, however, only in the single digits during the campaigns. One big goal, when I joined the RSCVA, 70% of all OTA bookings during the need periods were coming within 7 days. We focused a lot of our efforts on this situation, and we've brought that down to under 40% of the bookings are coming within 7 days during the need periods. This is extremely important because we get the bookings further out. Additionally, we've increased air bookings through the Expedia channel into the destination. And we've also noticed that when our programming ends, booking activity does slow down. So we've decided to keep up the momentum with the spring campaign, April through June, with these OTAs and to prime summer bookings. I want to just touch base a little bit on the United Airlines situation. We continue to work with Apple Leisure Group, and they manage the Southwest Airlines Vacations product and United Airlines Vacations product as well. So we're in that space as well with our programming. Any questions?
Seeing none, thank you, Mr. Jimenez, appreciate it. Ms. Isaac, do you have anything to add this morning in regards to marketing?
Just a little bit, Esther Isaac for the record. Moving forward, of course, the marketing staff will be very busy in the next couple of weeks, assuring the success of the Miss USA pageant, and we're looking forward to working with them very closely. In the meantime, I just wanted to draw your attention to some recent awards that we got from the American Advertising Federation. It's a national competition that starts out on the local level. It's to recognize excellence in advertising. 3 judges are brought in from out of the market for an unbiased opinion, and there's over 300 entries in this local competition. These 6 award categories are now going on to district as well as national, so we'll get those results in June. In addition to those Addy Awards, we received an Adrian Award. This is from the Hospitality Sales and Marketing Association International, and this is for our website that Noble Studios does such a great job with. So, thank you.
Any questions for Ms. Isaac? All right, seeing none. Mr. Chisel, the fun part, financials and operations, sir.
The exciting stuff,
Yeah.
real exciting. As was mentioned, we are working on the budget. We're also working on the capital improvement plan that you will be seeing in May in conjunction with the budget for the next fiscal year. And we're also working with the county on Wild Creek to transfer that and have a meeting with them tomorrow. For the financials, in your packet is the interim financials as of the month of January 2019. For the current fiscal year, with the month ending January, room tax collections, as you noted, in there are $20.8 million to a budget of $20.8 million, so we're just right on the nose. Tourism surcharge is actually down to $3,154,000 below budget, which was $3.2 million. However, overall revenues are $769,000 over budget at $29.3, so we're right in the sweet spot of the budget. Operating expenditures are $18.5 million, about $1.1 million below budget of $19.5 million, so we are within budget. And things are actually looking okay for our financials. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Sturbins.
Just a quick question. Is the supplies and services increase, is that SMG?
That is that all our facilities flow through that expenditure for SMG, yes, sir.
So why did January take such a huge increase?
Well, a lot of it is just the timing of when the expenditures are hitting with SMG.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Quarter to 11. Any further questions? Mr. Dillard.
Thank you. Mr. Chisel, are we, in terms of the bowling stadium and the renovations, still on schedule from that perspective?
According to the city of Reno, and we've been working with them, the city is managing this project, and they've been doing a phenomenal job. Kerry Koski at the City of Reno Public Works. They are right on schedule from everything we've heard. Actually, they've only had minor change orders in there, which you would expect with any building you'd open up, but very few change orders, so everything is looking very good for the refresh of the 4th floor.
Great, thank you.
Mr. Chisel, too, I have a quick question. Under the consolidated summary for the month of January, the 28-day occupied rooms, that's a short-term rental. That's the short-term rentals.
Those are the 28-day motels.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's
Where
the
does
category.
do we have a category? Where does the short-term rentals? Do the short-term rentals go into the cash rooms itemized in there, or no? Are they
Well,
not
if they're over
itemized?
28 days, they're not.
No. The short-term rentals wouldn't be in over 28 days. The weeks, the collections that we get from like Airbnb and
They're
they itemized under
vacation
cash
rentals.
rooms?
They're under cash rooms, yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Cash
I'm
occupied
sorry.
rooms.
I
Okay,
was-
that's
yeah.
all I was looking for.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And Airbnb is continuing to increase its footprint, and we had another over $1 million of revenue from Airbnb.
Great, thank you. Mr. DeLong.
Mr. Chairman, our guest, Mr. Stinsky, notified me that he has another meeting today. Perhaps we could
Yes, we'll jump right
provide
into it.
accommodation, let him speak.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's just jump right into that. So without further discussion on the executive report, we'll jump right into the BID report from Mr. Statinsky. Alex, welcome.
Well, thank you very much. And thank you for having me. I'm glad this worked out this time around. This is, I think, the third time that we're trying to get together and for me presenting to the board, and it's an honor to be here today. Congratulations, Ms. Silver. I'm so glad to see the chamber represented on the board level. You'll be a great addition. So real fast, before I start, let me tell you something right up front. I was invited to sit on a panel at the local IDA, regional IDA conference in Los Angeles just recently that discussed bids and homelessness. The reason why I was invited is because of the success that we're able to produce in this community. It's pretty amazing. The support that we have received from City Council, Mayor Shivi, from this organization, from the entire community is pretty amazing. And we cannot do these things, as you know, on our own. This is a united force that we need to build and move forward with, and I'm so glad that the way it's been going so far. So just a really quick update on what we have accomplished so far. We're about 4 months into the program, fully staffed. We have 14 ambassadors. We will be hiring 2 more now, and we'll be hiring 2 more at the beginning of the next fiscal year. So we get to 18 ambassadors for the next fiscal year. And again, as I always reiterate, I hope we'll get to a place where we'll have about 30 ambassadors. That is sort of the sweet spot that I see, so that we can really properly take care of our hotspots in various areas that need special attention in our downtown area. What am I doing? So here are some of the highlights for our ambassadors. And before I get into those, I want everyone to understand that the Business Improvement District is really not the ambassadors. It doesn't equal the ambassadors. It's just one of 3 programs that the BID is charged to do. One is the ambassador program to take care of the streets of downtown, make them cleaner, safer, nicer, friendlier, and address some of the homeless issues that we have. But then we have a marketing program, and we have an economic development program, which we are just starting to really get more robust into. The ambassadors have been receiving training, and I don't want to get into all these different organizations, but it's literally any organization that you can think of, any agency that you can think of that is somehow connected to homelessness, our ambassadors have been exposed to. And they will continue to be exposed to through continuous training. They have a standing meeting with the police department to make sure that they're on the same page, to make sure that they coordinate properly, and this is going really well at this point. Narcon training is one of the trainings that they have received, and I am happy and sad to report at the same time that to this point they were able to save 3 lives. When I made my initial report to this organization, they saved 1 life. It was right around the holidays. They now have saved 3 lives by administering Narcan, which is pretty important. They will receive ongoing training, and it's not just homeless-related organizations. As an example, Alicia Barber, who is really a historian. She is a well of knowledge. I love her. About the history of Reno. It's important to us that the ambassadors are also trained in those type of things. Trivia, information that they can pass on to visitors when they come to downtown. What is this building like? Why is this building like this? What does this bridge mean? What was there before? What's the history of this building? These are all questions that our ambassadors are supposed to be able to answer. And we're making sure that over time they will be trained over and over again, and they will be able to speak to those things and make recommendations for sightseeing, different landmarks that visitors should be visiting and seeing while they're in downtown. What they also do is they're receiving training today is a training at the I'm blanking now, the Whitney Peak. They're getting a training so that they understand all the different things that Whitney Peak has to offer to visitors. Not just the wall, but all kinds of other things. And this is also a program that the ambassadors are going through throughout the year, tastings with restaurants and things like that, though, that they really know and speak really well informed about what Reno has to offer and what downtown has to offer and where people can go and what they get when they go there. Here's a couple of statistics that I want to enlighten you with. Over 1,000 wellness checks, over 100 shelter referrals by now, 10 medical referrals. It says 1 life saved, it is 3 by now. Over 500 graffiti removals. I'm just going through them really fast. Over 800 shopping carts collected within downtown. And I'm emphasizing these things because they ultimately, I'm sure, are helping you when you do your FAMs and other things in downtown. And now with Miss USA, hopefully we'll have a cleaner, nicer, friendly environment that we can showcase to people that come to Reno that are interested in Reno for various reasons. I don't want to get into other details. I mean, it's pretty intense. Over 1,700 hotspots checked. Over 1,000 directions given. That's something that could be important to you too. So they are actually becoming the extension of what you do. They are encountering with visitors. They are giving them the directions. They are passing out your visitor guides that we already have. They will be passing out more collateral from businesses that are within downtown to encourage people to utilize the businesses and services that we offer for visitors in downtown. These are just a few images for you to see. These are before and after pictures. We will be taking more throughout the year so that you can really visually see the impact the ambassadors have on the feel and the appearance of downtown for visitors that we're trying to bring into this area. These are the abandoned shopping carts that we constantly collect, and then once we have enough, a company comes and picks them up and sells them back to the stores where they belong to. And because it still makes sense, because they're between $400 and $500 a cart, which I didn't know. It's another before and after. This is directly on Virginia. So I want you actually to see another thing, and this is something that is a much deeper and much longer issue, and Commissioner Lucy addressed that at our board meeting just recently that I missed, and I think that's why he became so courageous to speak out loud. I'm just kidding. Virginia still looks like that. So it's clean nothingness. It's before it was filthy, now it's clean. But there's still a lot of work to be done to revitalize Virginia and make it our Main Street drag with vibrant stores, retail, coffee shops, things that people expect from a normal downtown. We still have what you see in the after picture. So what we're doing is just the beginning of a much longer path that we all together need to undergo. And it is not just a homeless issue. It is an issue with our property owners. It's an issue with developers. It's an issue with investors. It's an issue with what is the vision of downtown. And our goal, the BID's goal, will be for this coming year is to create a roundtable with property owners. That is my dream. That I had that idea in the very beginning when I came to this community. I want to have all these people sit at a table because it's not that many people. And the really good opportunity to me is they're all locals. They're people that have an invested interest, an emotional tie to Reno. It's not like Beverly Hills where I come from, where when I tried to do something like that, I had to realize that the majority of property owners live abroad. They don't even care. They don't even know what property they have. It's a portfolio that's being managed by some people that don't care either. So in this community, it's very different, and I see this as an opportunity. But we need to get this going, and I want to ask the property owners, what is your vision for our downtown? This is your downtown. I'm a steward. I just work here. You own these places. What is your investment into them? What do you want to see in 5 or 6 years? And hopefully that will start a conversation and a dialogue that will bring us further. I just got back from a conference in Seattle. It's Main Street Conference. Main Street is a national organization that we become part of now. We just received a $35,000 grant from them, which is awesome. And Ms. Silver sits on the advisory committee, which is great too. So the conversation is like that all over America, all over the United States. And I asked them to put a little video together for us. When we have our initial meeting, I want people to see this is what much smaller communities that have only 5,000 people or 10,000 people, this is what they were able to do with their main streets. And their main streets look 100 times better than ours. So what is the problem in Reno? Why can we not do what they have been able to do? Anyway, I'm digressing. This is another before and after of our plaza, city plaza, and that is a change that the ambassadors are making nonstop. It is actually it's actually not at all about removing homeless individuals at all. We're inviting them to be in downtown. But it's about setting a new standard for downtown. It's like, what is it that we expect anybody? It's not homeless individuals, it's anybody. If Mayor Sheevy would pull down her pants somewhere in downtown and behave the way other people, she would be as reprimanded and as corrected as we do with other individuals. So we're not singling out a particular demographic. We're creating a standard for downtown that creates a balance so that all kinds of demographics will feel comfortable enjoying downtown over time. These are a few quotes that I want to share with you that come from stakeholders, from community leaders, and from actually the homeless community itself. That are thanking us for what we're doing, thanking the ambassadors for really making a difference, and helping them to clean up their area, to clean up their neighborhood or their businesses or their storefronts. And here is one quote that comes from a homeless person himself, Brandon Bird, who wanted to say thank you for directing him with information to get off the streets. He says, I'm off the streets and into a program through the Veterans Resource Center. I have a place over my head and foot in my belly, which I'm grateful for, but feel I'm still far from where I need to be. If there were more people like Jeremy, who's an ambassador, and the other ambassadors I met that day, the world would be greater than it is. The ambassadors were able to place 20 individuals into proper care. And I'm not talking about putting them into a shelter for the night. I'm talking about signing them up for long-term care at Crossroads and other facilities that we have where our homeless individuals can recover and be reestablished into the community. Now, 20 people is a drop in the bucket, as you know, but it is a substantial drop in the bucket. It makes a difference. So that's the ambassadors. We also have a marketing department, and again, Mike Higdon, who you all probably know by now, if you haven't known him before, from the Gazette. He used to be a journalist at the Gazette and came over to the bid. He's doing a great job putting the website together, really ramp up social media. Facebook page, we have an Instagram page now that is actually supported by a group of students. So we're getting marketing students at the university involved as well. We have a monthly newsletter. I would encourage all of you to sign up for the newsletter, which you can find on our website, downtownreno.org. And it is just because it'll make it easier for you to just quickly get developments that Mike finds out about downtown at a glance. They're very brief newsletters. It's not a waste of your time, I promise. Our Facebook page is Downtown Reno Partnership. Please like us if you haven't done so, so that you also stay in the loop on social media. These are some of the stats, and Jennifer may be more interested in these numbers, and Christina also. They're actually, I think, pretty impressive. I have a marketing background myself. It's a small organization. It's a small community. If you look at the numbers, they've only been really in place for the last 3 or 4 months. I think they're pretty nice numbers that we were able to create. The third arm is the economic development, which I hinted with the Main Street program that we become part of, and also with the redevelopment of Virginia that is so needed. The BID will be involved in it. BID will take on some kind of a leadership role to just move these things forward as much as we can. The Opportunity Zone Summit that Kaya was able to put together within a few weeks, and I am still so impressed with what she has done. If you guys were able to participate, it was a real amazing event. It was nothing to be embarrassed about. It's something to be proud of, that this community was able to put this together in a few weeks with, I think, about 800 attendees, which is substantial. Opportunity Zone and the advantages that zone is providing is a really important thing that I think a lot of developers still don't know. The challenge is, as you know, that the benefits are very long-term. So it is good for certain kind of developers and not so interesting for others that want to just turn around something very quickly. They will not be able to enjoy most of the benefits, but those that are going to hold onto the property for longer will have great advantages. So next year, these are the things that that we had proposed that are in place now for next year. Our budget is slightly going up, and this is why we're able to hire 4 more ambassadors. And also a economic development manager who will assist me in putting these economic development programs and initiatives into place. Next year, we now will have a budget of $2.7 million in the next year, which is about $400,000, $350,000 more than we have this year. As I mentioned, the ambassadors will go up. We will continue to work with Alex at the city to make sure that the code enforcement is strong in downtown. Alex is really doing a good job right now, starting with the motels and really making a difference in enforcing what needs to be enforced. Continue our homeless outreach, hospitality services that we're providing, and then continue to be eyes and ears on the ground, which makes the life of the RDP much easier. We have a great relationship with them. They are embracing us. They're glad we're here, and I love that partnership that we have. We will continue to have presence at special events, and especially when they ramp up now in spring. The ambassadors will be there. We will change the hour so that we have ambassadors late at night as well, just to be there and be eyes and ears and guidance for visitors so that they feel a little safer in that environment. And then the special focus areas, 4th Street Bus Station, the river, student housing, which will come online in a little while on 6th and Virginia. These are areas where we just need more ambassadors, and I am trying to get as many as possible with the budget that we have. Marketing, we're going to do our usual marketing and digital marketing for next year, special marketing campaigns for downtown. We already did one for Valentine's Day. The ambassadors were walking around giving out candy to visitors. Unfortunately, it was raining and hailing and snowing, and it was really bad, but it at least made the day for a few that were still on the street nicer. We are preparing campaigns for Mother's Day, Bring Your Mom to Downtown, and we develop sample itineraries for people to really come in down and enjoy downtown with their family. Things like that, where we are actually proactively supporting your organization on a much more local level. The kiosk is kind of floating around still, so we're thinking of a mobile kiosk, and this is something that still needs to be vetted with Mr. De Leon and possibly Ms. Cunningham. I don't know who will be involved in this. This is a mobile kiosk that we had in downtown LA that I think would be great for events, to have collateral, brochures, guides, things like that at an event. Right there, the ambassadors would staff the kiosk, and funding is still sort of floating in the air, so we'll see how we can swing it on our own or possibly with the support of you guys. Economic development.
Mr.
Yeah.
Not to stop you, Ms. Silver had a quick question for you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Alex, I don't have a question. I'd just like to make a request that perhaps the ambassadors come by the Chamber of Commerce and we could do a training session. We
Great.
have about 400 visitors each month who, by
Great.
virtue of just knowing their chambers,
Mhm.
come to the chamber. We
Yeah.
have thousands of marketing pieces, information about tourist destinations
Would
and
love
such.
it.
love to have them get familiar with what's
Yeah.
going on at the chamber, so we could be a resource to your ambassadors.
I would love it. Let's maybe start with 2 sessions.
Perfect.
So that we don't infringe upon their
Right.
shifts, and then the ones that are
Exactly.
not on shift can
Perfect.
come.
Thank
That's
you.
awesome. Thank you. Economic development, community outreach, which I hinted. So the economic development roundtable is important to me. We would like to see a survey, a more robust survey of residents, businesses, and the university, the students, to see what do you guys like to see in an ideal world? What would you like to see in downtown Reno? What kind of businesses, what kind of retail, what kind of restaurants, what kind of services would you like to see? And then have this sort of as a roadmap, and then go out and see whether we can get property owners to lease to businesses like that, whether we can proactively visit companies and see whether we are at a tipping point by now where they would consider coming to Reno. I mean, we've been doing this in Beverly Hills for years, very successfully so. It's a different kind of demographic, different type of businesses, but same concept. And we were successful recruiting businesses to Beverly Hills just because we visited them. So just to sit there and say, you know what, if they want to come here, they will. It's not always true. You need to proactively reach out and educate people and sometimes create a want or a need or some kind of an interest. Main Street program participation, mentioned that. Town hall meetings, important. That's one thing that we're working on. The first one will be sometime in May. We wanted to be quarterly town hall meetings for everyone that pays into the bid. Everyone that is assessed in downtown is invited to attend these quarterly town hall meetings, and these meetings are there to educate people on what we're doing, which direction we're taking, and to get their input. You know, what kind of ideas do you guys have? What kind of things have you noticed? Any feedback that we can get from our stakeholders is good feedback. So this will be something that will be started on a regular basis. And then our maintenance services will continue with the city, with Public Works. We're paying them somewhere around $400,000 a year for additional clean services, and the city has been doing an amazing job, I have to say, with responding to the ambassador's requests for anything that need to be cleaned up. So this is, in a nutshell, my quick update. I'm open for a few questions if you have any.
Mr. Dillig.
Alex, first of all, I just want to say thanks for being here. Thanks for the information. I find this fascinating and must say, you know, I was just talking with the mayor and some of this stuff is on social media I wasn't aware of. I will be. Thanks for that update. But as I'm sitting here thinking about this, being a downtown property owner myself, I'm wondering, and you discuss about having a community outreach plan, but a little bit more specifically, how do we get the word out on what you've accomplished? If we go back to the page, and you don't have to right now, but the page where 800 shopping carts and all these things that have been accomplished during this short period of time, as I talk to people and they say, hey, how's the bid going? Has it been successful? And you know, I report to them that yes, it is, but I'm not armed with some of the things that you've just shared today that are just, I think, phenomenal. And I think if there were some way to market the accomplishments of what have been done, and I realize there's a fine line there because to some degree you're acknowledging what it was, but I think you know that's an okay risk to take because we've addressed it and are continue to make improvements. So I'm curious if you have sort of a plan on that.
That's a great, thank you so much. I appreciate your positive remark. I mentioned a $35,000 grant that we just received from Main Street. We're using a portion of that grant, and it's in the works right now, to develop a brochure for the bid. It's an educational piece. It's many pages. It has the map of what the bid is, what the ambassadors are doing, what marketing economic development is doing, some of the major accomplishments. All these things will be on there. We are planning on printing something like 10,000 pieces. Get them mailed into the households and businesses in the vicinity of downtown, and then have these materials available at any type of event or wherever we go. We can pass them out and give them to people if they're interested. So that's one way of getting the word out. But you're right, it's an uphill battle, as you know, to get the word out because people are inundated with messages. And so we have social media, that's where we're trying to do that. I am constantly giving presentations like these. really constantly, about twice a week, I'm somewhere presenting to some organization, whether it's the Rotary Club or the Republican Women of Reno, or all kinds of groups that we're representing to, and that's just a slow way of hopefully getting the word out and continue to get the word out. There is a small fraction in the community which bothers me. There is a Paul White, and then there is a Jeff Church, and these people, they are very anti anything that has to do with tax. So they don't think the bid is the right way to go. They also don't believe the way homelessness is addressed at this point is correct. They don't want homelessness to be supported through shelters where people can use. So there is a little group within this community that believes differently, but I would say that the vast majority of this community understands the necessity, the need, and the value that this bid brings. So,
again, thank you, and if you would be willing to have me, I'd love to participate in some form or fashion.
Thank you very much.
to help in
Yes.
any way. Thanks.
Mr. Murdoch.
Alex, thank you. God bless you for what you do. You're everywhere, and that's a good thing because you see what your team does. There's good news and bad news. You're everywhere. You're hiring more people. It is the season, and there'll be much more movement when the weather gets warm. So I know you guys are prepared for that.
Oh, yeah.
And you already saw it in the 3 days when the weather got warm.
Yes.
You saw a lot of changes. So hopefully we can attack those head on, and I know you're right on it. So I appreciate that. But you guys have done some amazing things, and it's really good. There's some positives really moving for that shelter downtown too, for some changes to go out. And Chairman Lucy, you've been real good in helping us get that solved through the county also, and Mayor Sheevy. So positive things for downtown and for the region, because homelessness isn't just downtown all the time. I've seen
No.
it. It's everywhere. So
No, it's everywhere.
It's everywhere.
Actually, there is a video that I was exposed to yesterday morning. It was really interesting because I was in Seattle, and that video is about Seattle. And it's a 1 hour long video that you can find on YouTube, and it's called "Seattle is Dying." Very interesting video, of course, extremely biased, extremely one-sidedly focused on the homelessness issue. And I had a conversation with my equivalent in Seattle, which is a much larger bid, of course. And he admits, yes, they have a big homelessness issue, but it's not quite as dire as this video makes it look like. Why I like this video is because it speaks from my heart in some way. When it comes to enforcement of certain codes and behaviors in downtown, that video speaks to it, and how the Seattle police has been basically disenfranchised entirely. They are not able to enforce anything anymore. The homeless community has basically a free reign, and that's not right. And this video shows a model that was developed on the East Coast. I think it's in Providence, Rhode Island, where they created this correction facility. And it is when you are a repeat offender and you are then put into jail, you will be sent to this correction facility. In that facility, you are basically forced to take one of 3 medications that are FDA approved to replace heroin and any other opiates, methadone, and then there's 2 others. So you are put onto a regimen of this while you're getting counseling and therapy. Amazing. And if you don't do that, you end up in real jail. So you have only 2 choices. You're not being released. And this is something that I had a conversation with one of the sergeants who runs the bike team in downtown. Recently, I witnessed a homeless individual, and she was completely out of her mind. She was screaming, she was spitting, I witnessed her attacking a mother with her child, and she was super scared being in downtown. I called the ambassador and said, "You guys need to come right now. Something has to happen here." They did. And it was alleviated. It was gone. I don't know, 2 hours later, I was giving a tour to a little group. She was there again. I called the ambassadors again. And I talked to the sergeant about this incident that day, and he remembered, and he said, "Oh, she got 3 or 4 citations that day." And I said, "Okay, so you guys approach her, and you cite her, and then you drive away?" What is this? And he said, well, she reached a tipping point where the officer could have chosen to put her into jail. And that was most concerning for me. She would be in jail for up to 48 hours and then released. And I said, so how can this be? Who is helping whom right now? How can this be that an individual that is so obviously mentally challenged, so challenged, she's in a state of mind that is not healthy, and you just release her, there's no medical assessment, there's nothing? There's nothing. And so these are things that I think we need to address. Reno is a small enough community where I think we can tackle these things. I called a meeting for April 3rd, and Mayor Sheevy is going to be at the meeting. And Mayor Sheevy, I'm so glad you make that work. I know that your schedule is so packed, but this is the reason for that meeting. I want the city attorney, I want the chief of police, I want the mayor, I want everyone to be at a table. And we need to be on the same page because you're right. Mr. Murdoch is absolutely right. Spring is happening. And we're getting, my operations manager called me about a week ago and said, Alex, there's a whole new group of homeless people that are coming to Reno. The individuals that he has never seen before. And we need to do something about this. And then he said, but we can't remove them. We can't tell. You know, the ambassadors right now are working in sort of a very delicate environment where they're asking people to move around, but they're still inviting them to be there. I want to make sure that this entire city is on the same page with enforcement. And what do we have available? What kind of ordinances are there? How can we push the envelope as a city without violating state or federal laws? How far can we go as a city and be united when it comes to, again, not chasing out homeless people, but enforcing codes, behavioral codes that we uphold as something that is just basic, that's something that this city welcomes. We need to make sure that people are coming back to downtown and not being continued to deterred to come to downtown because of erratic behavior. Yeah. So that's my answer to my long-winded answer.
Madam Mayor?
I just want to say, Alex, you are phenomenal. And for those of you who aren't familiar with bids, they're becoming very, very common in cities.
There are over 1,000 in this country.
At Conference of Mayors,
Yeah.
there were several mayors that I met with that have bids, and we were talking about what's been successful. And, and you've had a ton of great PR. And then there was one where, and unfortunately, sometimes negativity is, sells. And they had a report of, oh, the ambassadors, didn't move the individual or things like that. You got to remember that's not their purpose, and not to mention they are not police officers too. But I will tell you, I received the nicest letter from a couple who said that they had stopped coming to Reno for several years. This is about 8 years ago. They stopped coming to Reno. They were forced to come to Reno 2 weeks ago because their daughter was getting married. And they sent me the nicest letter and said, I came across Jeremy, the ambassador. What an incredible face you guys are putting on. But I want to remind everyone, especially since there's some properties in this room that are downtown and there's some that aren't. But downtowns are cities inside cities.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? So they're different dynamic. But let me ask all of you, when you guys go and visit another city, what do you typically do? Don't you go and visit their downtown, or you want to see what's going on down there? Because the dynamic is different. The lots of energy are coming from that main core of a downtown. You want to see, those downtowns. So all of us in the room, that's why it's so important to support this, because someone staying at the Atlantis is going to be coming downtown. And when you put on a face that is, really challenged, as we've had downtown, that's what they remember. And guess what? They don't come back to Reno. And so we want a place downtown that represents all of us, because that's what your visitors are seeing when they're staying in your resorts outside of, whether it's Peppermill or Atlantis or, outside or up at Lake Tahoe, especially Lake Tahoe. We get so many visitors because that rock climbing wall, the world's largest rock climbing wall from Tahoe, they're downtown. So let me just tell you, this collaborative effort is critical for all of us to be in on it together because it's affecting your backyard and your backyard in some capacity, or even in Sparks. A lot of people will stay in Sparks and come to downtown Reno for the events that we have down there. So that's what I want to really stress, because a lot of people have said, "Oh, that's downtown. It doesn't pertain to my hotel and casino."
Yeah, not
That's
correct.
not true.
A city is only as strong as its downtown, and it holds everywhere.
Yeah.
It's, if you look at any kind of city, if they don't have a vibrant main street somewhere, it's not a complete city. It's not an interesting city as a destination.
And if we're all doing it together, and the city's ready to take on some really controversial positions when it comes to properties that have been vacant and blighted, that people are holding on to and letting them dilapidate, and just it's this sort of broken window effect.
Absolutely. And I think
Rudy
it affects
Giuliani, sort of changed that in his city, and so there's different ways to go about doing it, but I think at this point,
right,
it's like what Alex said. But I want to just thank you. The bid has been amazing. And you got to turn your haters into elevators, because there will always be some, right? But that's, if we don't try, then what do you guys want to do?
Right.
What do we do?
Right. No, but bids, as you mentioned, Mayor Shivi, bids have proven to be very successful nationwide. I mean, bids, in my opinion, I'm a big proponent of bids. They're the savior of this nation in many ways, because a lot of municipalities don't have the funds any longer to maintain their neighborhoods the way they need to be maintained. So private money needs to come in order to maintain what needs to be maintained.
Right. I love it. Good job.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the
Any
opportunity.
other further
Appreciate it.
questions or anything for Mr. Stasinski? Alex, I'll leave this with you. One last thing. I have to say, I have been from the very first time I met you, I have been a very staunch proponent, saying, "Hey, look, we got to do this, but are you the right guy?" And
you hated me. The interview was horrible.
I know, wasn't I? I was mean. Well, I was mean and rude. I know. Today I was so mean and rude today, but because I had such a passion for downtown, and I've got to say, Alex has been the absolute best choice we have made for the bid and the Downtown Reno partnership. He has really moved into this area and built a board, taken a board of 15 members, very strong individuals within the community, and has shown an instantaneous passion for downtown. Realistically, when you talk to anybody else about downtown, it is not as passionate as Alex has been. And I have to say, in just a year, he has become more of a native than most people that I know that are natives. He really has bought in. He's got a house. He's bought into Reno and really does love our community. And it shows in the way he works and the way he operates. And I have to say thank you for all the time and effort you've put in. Being the uphill climb that it has been for you, I know that it has been a challenge. You have really immersed yourself here, and it makes organizations like RSCVA, the county, the city, all those that buy into the bid and support the bid, feel comfortable that you're at the helm. So I want to thank you for that and your continued support and direction with the bid. We look forward to great things in downtown, and you're absolutely right. Downtown is our home, and it's our heart of our community. And we've said it here many times. It's our gateway. That's our front door. Right. And so we want to make sure that we put our best foot forward. And you're doing a great job. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Seeing no further discussion about the bid, we will move on. We have a couple items in the finance. We can take these items independently, or we can take them as a combination to move the meeting along. Does any of the board members need a discussion or a presentation on item F1 or item F2 as presented in the... Mr. Dillard.
Make a motion, we approve the both combined.
Okay.
Item F1 and F2.
I have a motion from Mr. Dillard. I have a second from Mr. Sturbins. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. We're on to item G, G1, which is a review, discussion, and possible action for a new contract for website planning, marketing, and website maintenance with Noble Studios. the existing vendor. Does the board need a presentation on this item as well? Noble Studios has been our vendor for time and is this is a reaffirmation of their contract.
I'd like to make a motion to approve their contract.
I got a motion from Mr. Murdoch.
second?
Do I have a second from Mayor Sheevy? Further discussion?
I just want to say one thing really quickly. You guys have done a phenomenal job with Noble Studios. I cannot even begin to tell you. I mean, that is the first impression that people see. That knocks your socks off. It is so great. So I just want to say, Jennifer, I mean, all of you guys, but it's amazing. Get on there and keep, checking it out because the content's changing all the time and they are just phenomenal at what they do. And I think they just won some big national award. That's one thing you guys do so well, right? Yeah, okay. Oh, yeah, I have heard about it through a friend that designs and does like massive websites for, big Fortune 500 companies. And they talked about Noble. So we're so lucky to have them, but just such a good job on your part.
All right, I have a motion from Mr. Stearns, second by Madam Mayor. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Item I, board member comments regarding any future meetings. Are there any? Mr. Murdoch.
2 comments back on the one we just approved. You know what I like about that group is they are working hand in hand with the airport now. Noble Studios is, and I think it's kind of nice that because we've been working closer with the airport, especially with all this new activity, Noble's pretty good at this stuff, so I appreciate that and wanted to say that. And then secondly, I was going to direct this to Mr. DeLone. Hey, Phil, could we get a SMG update every month on what they doing, like booking conventions or entertainment too, so we could see what possibly is opportunities or things that they're looking at? Because part of their whole deal was they're going to help us in the convention side. I'm very interested in, and then obviously we're always starved for entertainment downtown. So just if you could, we would appreciate it, I think, and if we could get something monthly or just a little report, Mike can give it. I know, and by the way, SMG's been fantastic to work with downtown on that point. I just want to, yeah. So thank you.
Okay. Any further comments for future meetings? Mr. Dillick.
This is just a comment to welcome Ann to the board. Very much look forward to working with you. Very, very excited about that. And then one comment. I think I'm the most recent newly appointed board member, and my desire for you as you come in, that my nameplate still has tape on it, and that I hope that yours will not have tape on it when it arrives for you. So welcome to the board.
Thank you, Mr. Dillard. All right. Seeing no further comments from any of the board members, we'll move on to public comment. Is there any public comment? I have none signed in at this time. Madam Clerk, do you have any? All right. Seeing no public comment, we'll close public comment. We're adjourned. Thank you.